Hello everyone. Today I'm going to share with you my newly updated recipe for gluten-free yeasted naan. If you've never had naan before, you have got to make this recipe. It is so easy to make, and it really rivals what I used to get from one of our local Indian restaurants. It is that good. It's soft, it's plush, it tears apart perfectly, and it has that tang that's so characteristic of naan. So let's get into it and I'll show you how to make it. To make the dough, I already have 4 cups or 560 grams of my bread flour blend in a stand mixer, and to that I'm adding 1 tablespoon or 5 grams of psyllium husks along with 3/4 teaspoon of instant yeast, 2 teaspoons of sugar, a half a teaspoon of fine sea salt, 3/4 teaspoon of baking powder, and a half a teaspoon of baking soda. Give this a quick little stir, and then add 1/4 cup or 60 milligrams of hot water along with 1 cup or 240 milligrams of warm milk and 1 cup or 240 grams of plain Greek yogurt. Increase the mixer to medium-high speed and knead for 5 minutes. The dough should be nice and smooth, just like this. Scrape it together. Cover it and let it rise in a warm place until doubled in size. Then refrigerate it overnight. Now that it's nice and cold, we can go ahead and knead it and form our naan. So get it onto a well-floured surface, and of course the flour I'm always using to flour my surface is my own Kim's gluten-free bread flour blend. Once it's nice and smooth, go ahead and divide it into 8 equal portions. I'm using a scale here, but you can also just eyeball it. And when I use a scale, I always weigh the whole thing and then divide it by 8. And here I got roughly 52 grams each. So just divide it into roughly 52 gram portions. So add more flour as necessary once you have them all divided out, and just knead them briefly to get them into more of a round shape. And then take your rolling pin and roll them into an oval that's about 1/4 of an inch thick. You definitely don't want to go thinner than 1/4 of an inch. And these are so forgiving that you can actually pick them up and move them around, just adding extra flour as necessary. And to get off the extra flour, I like kind of flip them in between my hands just to remove that excess flour. And then I'll just lay those aside and continue with all of the rest. And now I'm just going to leave them sit covered and let them kind of proof for about 30 minutes to an hour. It's not only to let them proof, but also let them come more to room temperature and take that chill off of them, because remember that whenever we knead our dough, we're always taking it straight from the fridge. So it's always going to start out much colder than any normal gluten-filled dough would. So we want to take the chill off of these so they have a better chance at rising. So while I'm waiting on that, I'll get to making my garlic butter for brushing over the top. So in a small saucepan over medium-low heat, I'm melting 1/4 cup or 56 grams of butter. And I'm going to add in 1 to 2 cloves of garlic, depending on the size of my garlic cloves. Sometimes I'll add a little more, sometimes a little less if they're really large garlic cloves. And you can press them or finely chop the garlic. Then add in a handful of chopped fresh parsley. Swirl it around a bit. You don't want to let the garlic burn or even brown. You're not looking for browning of the garlic. So just swirl it. It needs to be on a very low heat. And once that's all melted, you can take it off the heat and just set it aside until you're ready. So to quote unquote bake these naan, I'm replicating a tandoor oven by heating a cast iron skillet over really high heat. And I'm dropping my naan in there carefully, and I'm putting the lid back on. I'm setting a timer for 2 minutes. Your house might get a little smoky with this. If it does, turn on a fan, open a door, whatever you got to do, because it's just going to continue to get smoky unless you have a really good ventilation system. I don't, unfortunately, but it is going to continue to get smoky until you are done with all of them. At the 2-minute mark, remove the lid, carefully flip it over, and put the lid back on, and we're going to go for another 1 to 2 minutes. I don't know if you can see this, but one side is so puffed up. It is absolutely perfect. You can flip it over a couple more times to make sure it's fully cooked to your satisfaction, actually. And then what I do is I wrap them in a tea towel and keep them warm until they are all fully baked and ready to serve. Just look at these, you guys. These are so good. They are some of the best naan I've ever had, honestly. And my husband and my son would agree. Make sure you don't forget to brush them with the warm garlic butter, and these are piping hot right now because I kept them nice and warm under the tea towel, so it's kind of hard for me to pick up each one because they are so hot. But you can serve these with curries, of course, any kind of curry you like. You can also serve them with dips like they do at Disney World at Sanaa. That used to be one of my favorites ever. And then they changed their gluten-free naan into basically an allergen-free naan, and it's just not the same. But maybe if they tried this recipe, it would be great because they have these wonderful sauces that you can just dip the naan in. But my favorite way of serving naan is to use them kind of like a flatbread and a wrap, and serve them with grilled chicken and veggies and just like some hummus or a tahini, garlic Greek yogurt spread that I make that is to die for. And naan are just incredible. You can also serve them as a pizza. You can use them as a base for a pizza. They are just that good. And you saw how easy they are to make. So get in the kitchen and make them. Enjoy.